Good evening and welcome back to 31 Horror Nights. It's October 27th and tonight's movie is Gonjiam, Haunted Asylum. This is a found footage movie from South Korea made in 2018 about a group of ghost hunters that have a web series and they're going to a haunted asylum to get some content. Apparently they go in planning to stage some things, to get some real juicy content, but things actually happen that they aren't prepared for. And if you're a found footage aficionado watching, which you're probably not, you might be thinking that this is an awful lot like the 2011 found footage movie Grave Encounters. And that's because it is. It's also a team of ghost hunters who don't really believe in what they're doing, going to a haunted asylum, and then bad things happen to them. However, unlike Grave Encounters, which just made an asylum up, Gonjiam Psychiatric Hospital is actually an abandoned building in South Korea. And it's actually rumored to be very haunted. And what I find very funny is that there was an attempted lawsuit against this movie by the owner of that asylum, saying that it killed the resale value. I mean, if anything, a movie hyping up how haunted your abandoned building is would drive up money going into your place for like ghost tours or stuff like that, but whatever. Anyway, I have seen westernized takes on this premise before in movies like Grave Encounters and Followed, but I'm interested to see what the South Korean version of it is. I'm gonna go watch it. Holy smokes, this movie. This movie is so much fun. I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. This movie kind of snuck up on me because the first half is not that great. It's kind of boring. There aren't really any scares. It's all just setup. And then the second half of this movie is completely bonkers in the best way possible. The original team of ghost hunters is just 4 guys, and they invite these 3 women to come with them, I guess as like guests, I suppose. And what's funny is that both Grave Encounters, Followed, and a bunch of other found footage movies actually start out with 1 or more characters that are complete brain jackasses at the beginning, but then they have to step up and sort of grow into a more heroic role as the movie continues. This movie's the opposite. They all seem normal at the beginning, and when things start getting really bad, one of them reveals themselves to be a total jackass. The main draw for this movie is its horror. Some of the scares in this movie are really clever, so well executed. And there's a lot of variety as well. Like, the scares range from as simple as graffiti that used to say, "Let's live," now reading, "Let's die," to the floor being covered with a pool of water, and there being a hole in the ceiling, and there's an upside-down pool of water up there. Characters get possessed, they teleport, they time travel, it's insane. It does kind of remind me of Grave Encounters in the fact that they were really pushing the envelope as a no, we can keep making this crazier. But somehow, even despite that, this movie never goes into campy silliness at any point. It's all very well done horror that works. I liked it for a lot of the same reasons why I liked Last Shift. There is a point in the movie where at every minute there's something new, there's something different. And for the most part, the horror in this movie is very honest. It's not cheap in many places. If you like found footage, I would recommend this movie completely. This isn't just great, it's one of the best movies I've seen this month. And now I really want to talk about some of these spoilers. It begins with either most or all of the guys knowing about the stage scares and the women not knowing about it, but there eventually comes to a point where the scares stop being staged. Also of note, not all 7 of them are actually in the asylum. One of them, the charismatic face of the channel who does a lot of narration, he's just hanging out at a tent that they set up, watching them do things and feeding them lines. The ghosts do mess with him too, by the way. There's a point where the little camp stove turns on by itself and almost sets the entire base camp on fire. But that is nothing compared to a lot of the things that happen in the asylum. There's a room that's full of basically a sarcophagus with a hole inside, and one of the guys sticks his hands in and pretends to get pulled by something, and then one of the girls sticks her hand in too, and she actually gets pulled by something. You can see how aggressive it is. It almost rips her arm off. There are scratches on her arm after it. And pretty soon, two of the girls just quit. They don't want anything to do with it anymore. So they leave, but before they can get back to base camp, one of them gets possessed and she has like those full black eyes. And all the people in the asylum have two cameras with them at all times, like attached to them. One is facing their face and the other one is like more of a POV. And the one on the possessed girl is like all black eyes and she's like whispering really fast. It's like... It seems that the epicenter of all the evil supernatural power in this asylum is room 402, a room that is completely sealed. They try everything. Other people have tried so many things and nobody can get it open. But when characters get got by the ghosts, the lights go out and then the lights will go back on and they'll be inside room 402. And no one leaves room 402. I think my favorite scare in the entire movie was one of the really subtle ones. There was a group of 3 people who got sent to room 402. It was the one with like the upside down water pool I mentioned. And you see with 2 of them, one after another, with their like the reaction cameras that are facing them, you'll see these dirty, grimy hands like reach around their face from behind and then pull back really quickly and they don't even notice it. And amid subtleties like that, you'll also have ceilings collapsing and naked, dismembered bodies running at people. And the last scare of this movie was very well done. Everybody has been killed except for this one guy who was like knocked out earlier in the movie, and he wakes up like strapped to a wheelchair. And then the wheelchair starts like moving on its own backwards, and he gets sent into room 402, and then the door closes. And then it does a thing where it like cycles through all the cameras that have been set up in the hospital and shows that it's all completely silent again. And by the way, that face of the channel that was hanging out of base camp, he's that character that turned out to be like the worst, because he was like saying, it's like, no, keep going. We're almost at 1 million views. We need views. We need money. The whole thing was a live broadcast, sort of. It was like they do some stuff and then they like cut to commercial, or they're like do some replays while the people are like being fed the lines or what stunts to do next. But apparently the stream like cut out right after one of the guys told the girls that a lot of this was supposed to be faked, but this is real, we need to leave, and it cut off there. So then the comments was like, oh man, they were faking this whole thing, what a bunch of phonies. Also, in like the screen recording of the live stream, there was like a banner on the left and right side that showed like scary The Ring looking girls sitting in chairs, and at the very end, like they get up and walk away. I would recommend Gonjiam Haunted Asylum for the same reason why I would recommend Last Shift. If you're into horror movies, this movie is delightful. I would still say that Train to Busan is probably still the best K-horror movie I've seen, but it's close. Anyway, awesome movie. Check it out. There are so many scares I didn't even touch on. There's a lot to like in this movie. Okay, thank you guys for listening. I'll see you tomorrow.